Welcome to It's What Our Characters Would Do, the podcast where a neutral good ranger and a chaotic neutral warlock talk about RPGs, roll funny dice, and give away some sweet loot. I'm Bob World Builder.
I'm Grace World Destroyer.
And today, we're talking about Halloween one-shots. But first, Grace, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling kind of tired because I've been playing too much Elden Ring.
You've actually been playing a lot of Elden Ring since we got a brand new PlayStation 5 for our wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, like, among other gifts, but that was certainly a standout gift.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're married now, too.
That's true. Well, hey, this is the first episode, technically, of this podcast. Many people coming to it. You probably listened to the BOBCAST, but if you haven't, I'm Bob World Builder. I have a YouTube channel about D&D stuff. And
I'm Mrs. Grace World Destroyer.
And this is my wife, Grace World Destroyer. A number of people asked me if you'd be taking, the name Grace World Builder now, and I said no. In order to keep balance in the universe, we must maintain our individual titles and roles.
Yeah, also it'd be a real hassle to legally change my name to Grace World Builder, so...
Yeah, it was such a problem when I did it from my original real last name to Bob World Builder, as now my true legal name.
I think I'll just change my last name to Elden Ring.
Yeah, hey, why not?
I'm more married to the PS5 than I am to you.
The more important ring that came out of that day, maybe. Yeah.
If you like it, then you should have Eldened a ring on it.
Yeah, maybe that's because you haven't figured out what the Elden Ring is.
I have no idea what it actually is.
I don't know if anybody knows. I don't know if no one's ever beaten that game.
No, nobody's beat Elden Ring.
That's the whole point.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty good because I'm excited about this first episode. And was kind of like stressed out with trying to get some video stuff done in time. But like I set all my own time limits, so I was able to change some stuff. And it's good now. So now I get to focus on this. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm applauding.
Thank you. All right. You ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's enter this episode with our first true segment, what I'm for now calling the quick build, where we try to summarize our topic, or in this case, maybe more of the goal for our episode, in 3d6 words or less. I'm going to try to do the summary. Yeah, you go ahead and roll.
Bob has...
Well, it looks like a lot.
Is this actually...
Remember, that's Roman numeral, remember? Yeah.
Yeah, but like...
Oh, shit.
It's a D3.
I grabbed... Just give me the 2. Just give me whatever came up.
Okay.
I grabbed a DCC die, a D3 instead of D6.
Just because it's a cube doesn't mean it's a D6.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have 10 words
to
describe
okay.
the topic.
We want to, I'm counting on my fingers here, help you scare your group nicely. Ha. That's 10.
Okay. Good job.
What would you have said? What would you have said?
As the last word, I would have just said together.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I couldn't think of something. I guess it could, 6 words or less. That's
what I would have said is,
yeah.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, Halloween.
Yeah, that would have been a good one. I was actually thinking like, oh man, it would have been fun if we like watched that or something, just in preparation to truly get in the Halloween spirit before recording this, because at the time of recording, it's still the very end of September. But this is the time.
I'm actually of the mind that...
Christmas?
The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I think the popular opinion is that it's both, right?
The popular opinion is incorrect.
It might be. I haven't actually seen that movie in many years. Maybe that's what we should... So we're actually planning a little get-together to watch Over the Garden Wall with a couple friends. Very autumnal show. If you've never seen it, highly recommend checking it out. But that's not what this episode is about. Although it does have some cool, like, spooky elements. And in its episodic way, maybe I'm segueing here toward how it's, like, kind of one-shot-esque, right? Each episode is its encapsulated little adventure.
Yes. But it's all part of an overarching adventure as well, so...
That's true.
Maybe
So that part doesn't necessarily relate. But yeah, I mean, and that's what a one-shot is. If anybody came to this, like, this is your first time ever hearing about what's a one-shot in an RPG, right? It's just a session, usually ends up being more than one session, but a session where you have a beginning, middle, end of an adventure all together. What's Halloween?
What's Halloween?
Yeah, just in case somebody clicked on this and doesn't know what Halloween is. How would you describe it?
Halloween is the night when you put on a cute outfit, or maybe a scary one, and you go door to door and you try to take stuff from strangers.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the end goal. Usually they're giving you a thing. And what you described, it's normally like for kids. I guess adults could try to do that.
Well, when you're an adult, you have to take it because they're not going to give it to you if you're an adult. That's true.
You have to go to the houses that say, take one, and then you're the punk who takes the whole bowl. You take the whole bowl. Yeah, mostly talking about candy here, but you probably all understand what Halloween is. I mean, like, historically, probably pretty fantastical origins. Like a lot of our holidays, I imagine there's some cool, like, pagan roots to that.
Yeah, I think it was like you would dress up all scary to scare away the evil spirits, but I'm not a Halloween historian.
Yeah.
So don't listen to anything that I say.
Yeah, and all I know, I guess, really is that it's definitely, in some regard, related to, what is it, because I was raised Catholic.
Eve
All Saints Day is the following day, so it's, All Hallows Eve, and I feel like I once heard or something that the ween part, or I guess I should say the een part of Halloween, is it really just like a shortening of evening? Yeah, or eve.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you ever dress up as your favorite saint as a Catholic?
No, I don't think there was really any crossover with my childhood, with my Catholic childhood and Halloween.
I knew this kid in elementary school whose family didn't do Halloween because I don't know if they were like Christians or if they were full on like Jehovah's Witness or what.
Oh, but okay, could be.
Instead of Halloween,
they would go to
Disneyland every year.
I mean, if there's gonna be an alternative, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they did it right.
Yeah,
that is the correct way to not allow your kids to celebrate a certain holiday.
Yeah, if you have to skip a holiday, you better make it awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I don't know. I think everybody pretty much participates because it's, like even Christmas, it's very commercial. But that's the fun of it.
I'm just now realizing though, like, doesn't Disneyland do like a Halloween thing?
Oh, actually, yeah, I think they do.
So I wonder.
Or am I just thinking of like Dorney Park, which is a theme park near where we live?
Well, yeah, I feel like most amusement parks do something like that.
Do something on Halloween.
So I wonder if A, that girl was lying, or B, they really did celebrate Halloween, but they just wanted to celebrate it at Disney World, where it's way
could
cooler.
Be one or the other. Could be one or the other. Kids definitely lie about cool things.
Yeah.
What's a cool thing that your family ever did for Halloween?
So we had this bat that would flap its wings and
like a
fly
decoration.
in circles. That was the coolest thing.
Yeah, besides trick-or-treating, I don't think my family ever did anything crazy. When I was in middle school, I went to a cool Halloween party once that, like, this one pretty wealthy family had. There was just, like, a ton of kids there, and it was pretty awesome.
I went to a Halloween party a few years ago before we met that was in an abandoned church.
Wow, okay.
I'm not 100% sure the host had permission to throw that party. And I remember at one point going to the bar area and there's just this random guy there.
Okay.
And I just asked for like a beer.
Was he in a costume?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
And here's why. Because I asked for a beer and he said, "We're only serving tequila now."
Oh.
So that's what I drank.
That's the end of that story. That's a trick, not a treat.
Yeah, that was a trick for sure.
Okay. Should we talk about some spooky RPG stuff that we've done?
We should.
Why not? So, I remember, we talked about this a little bit before the episode, and it seemed like you either forgot this, or maybe I'm just getting it wrong, because I don't know necessarily if this was played around Halloween time. But we did once play a one-shot that I think did end up being 2 sessions. That was about this village where people were going missing or something. And actually, I'm mixing this with... We played 2 spooky one-shots with the same DM, I think. One of them ended with a werewolf, the other one with a bone claw.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember which is which now, so I
think
can't
the
talk about the
werewolf
adventures
one
properly.
was actually around Halloween time.
Okay.
And the bone claw one was just like a non-canon or like semi-canon session of a campaign that we were playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where my character and your character just like sidetracked off to this town, and yeah, people were going.
Was that part of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign?
No, that was part of the homebrew campaign that the Stevens were originally running together.
Yeah.
But then it got separated, obviously, because it's very difficult to run concurrent campaigns.
Right.
And they
2 different
expected
parties, same world.
they
It didn't work.
expected people to leave both parties so they could merge them together.
Yeah.
But everyone loved it so much that nobody left the games.
Hey, which is actually pretty great. And then
Yeah.
they just became 2 separate campaigns.
Yep.
But it wasn't necessarily because of that one shot. What do you remember from those one shots, if anything?
I remember in the bone claw one, I knew pretty much right away that it was going to be a bone claw.
Okay, because I was going to say, I remember in the werewolf one, you knew right away it was going to be a werewolf.
I'm good at, like, you know, from the one of the older videos, Who's That Dungeon?
Oh, very old. And
I
actually, I think they're, like, hidden now.
Yeah, and I beat you so soundly.
That'd be a good podcast episode, actually.
It might be, because I just know all the monsters, and I know their behaviors, and I can predict when one is going to be our boss.
Yeah, and I also recall, I don't think Steven actually told us this until after, but he said even the title of the werewolf module was like, the something moon, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, so if you were a player and just happened to even hear the title of this module, it'd pretty much give away what the villain was. And it was supposed to be this kind of reveal at the end, but it wasn't. So maybe there's sneak one little tip in here. If you're gonna try to have something be a twist ending with your monster, it's gonna be really hard to pull off for Halloween, where everyone's expecting the monster. And, I'm thinking like Scooby-Doo, like it's just too classic. Well, I guess in that case, the monster's not real, but there's always gonna be some reveal at the end anyway. Maybe you don't need to be too secretive with your Halloween stuff.
Yeah. I mean, people like campiness for Halloween.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't think...
So just run a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, you could just run a Scooby-Doo episode, or just go like straight up scary,
Yeah, like over the top, like Cabin in the Woods
knowing
style.
That the thing you're going to fight at the end is a demon or a ghost or whatever doesn't necessarily make it less scary.
Yeah.
This year, my DM, I'm playing in a second Waterdeep campaign from the last one that I played in, is going to run something based on Power Rangers.
For Halloween?
Yes. Where he has like this list of
like
character concepts. Or no, it's a list of names, a randomly generated list of names for rangers.
Okay.
And we are going to have to roll on that list and then make a character based on the name.
I like that.
One of them is just called the Badger, and that's the one I want. And I want to just play a badger with a knife taped to it. But he said we have to roll, so we'll see if I get that or if someone else does. Yeah. But then, like, the one shot is called Power Rangers.
Okay.
And I guess there's probably going to be some kind of over-the-top, like, big alien robot or something that we have to fight.
And I was going to say, I really like that you are randomly determining the character, too. Because I feel like, for a one-shot, you don't necessarily want your players going, like, way in depth, creating a character that probably isn't supposed to survive a Halloween one-shot. Like, a lot of times that should be kind of deadly, I feel like.
Yeah, a ton of backstories is one of the things that makes stuff take more than one session.
Yeah, and, you won't be playing into the backstory. A one-shot, it's like what we said before, beginning, middle, end is already planned. Like, you're not really adding a lot of character details. Yeah, you can work in some of that, but
Yeah,
it's not the goal.
One-shots are the only time it's okay to play a
Full
build.
railroad.
A build.
Oh, okay.
As a character. And yes, full railroad it. Railroad all those builds.
But actually, well, yeah, that's a cool idea. That'd be a good time to let your like real min-maxer player, or even just players who aren't usually into that, just actually like create a character that's super powerful at something.
Yeah, but then you have to go all out with the enemy too.
It depends on what they max, I guess. But yeah. But also that, like, the enemies should be powerful. I think any game that's going to involve horror elements in D&D, it gets usually hard to do, but you got to have the players actually be a little scared, like a little like, oh crap, I'm going to die earlier than I expected to.
For example,
go ahead.
In Elden Ring and or the Dark Souls franchise,
Grace's actual husband.
Everything is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you are not on the same level as the creature you're fighting.
No. And honestly, just just from watching you play a lot, I mean, and like seeing stuff online about it, the artwork, like all the concepts in the game itself are eerie. Like they're supposed to be unsettling.
I was just like looking out over a landscape in the game, just like watching this big like walking mausoleum.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Walk around in a circle and ring the bell, and there were like these headless guys walking around it. And I was like, this is definitely like the weirdest game that I've ever played. And I just keep seeing things, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. It should make your players a little bit concerned for how you came up with the monster.
Yeah.
In the game.
Yes. Like, my players all know that I'm playing Elden Ring now.
Yeah, I heard you describing a monster in your last session. It's just like why don't you go ahead? I'm thinking of the eyeballs involved?
It was a gloom something. Let me check my notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the game actually did inspire me to just be very horror descriptive in that particular session.
Right.
But it was also just supposed to be a weird place because it is on the edge of the Feywild and the Astral Sea.
Okay.
And they went there to bring a fellow character back to life. So it's just this place where the veil is thin.
Right.
And strange
The veil should
happen.
always be thin in your Halloween one-shot. Because, I mean, that's also, take a quick detour again back to, like, the historical origins. It's all about, like, that Day of the Dead kind of thing. It's a time to really be focusing on death as the topic. But anyway, did you have your monster?
It should be liminal. A woe strider. That's what it was. And when
What's it look like?
Let's see. As you are about to broach the tree line, you hear an ear-splitting wail.
Shia LaBeouf?
Looking frantically for the source of the sound, you spot a twisted creature hunched near the prow of the ship with its back to you. It is a gray-skinned, long-limbed abomination that looks vaguely like it might once have been human, but was somehow stretched into the thing you see before you. A mane of matted black hair hangs from its upturned head as it screeches to the heavens. When it finally finishes bellowing, its neck twists at an unnatural angle to look back toward the tree line that conceals you, and you see instead of a face, the creature only has a cavity filled with a jumble of eyeballs.
Very good. Jumble of eyeballs.
Yep, and
Peeled like Halloween grapes.
I kept reiterating the eyeball thing.
Yeah, I remember hearing the first attack. Somebody punched it in its eyeball face and like popped. I think
squished.
You said popped.
Yeah.
Or maybe some of the eyeball. I was like, ugh. Like I'm just overhearing the session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
very visceral.
When they went in the ship, they found a pile of corpses that were all missing their eyeballs because they just took their eyes and put it in its face.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do that. Pluck out some eyeballs for sure. But I really like that emphasis on descriptions, and I think it should be really
go overboard with the description, especially of like the main monster, because really good horror keeps the monster a secret for as long as
don't say
visually.
The name. Don't tell them the name.
Visually keeps it a secret for as long as possible.
Yes.
But then when you see it, it should have a lot of impact.
Bingo.
So when they are finally seeing it and going to fight it, describe every aspect of the creature that you can.
Yeah. All right. And I think right there is a good time for us to take a short rest. BRB. Now, it's time for a random encounter, where we read your stories and questions, generally about this topic, and the person who wrote our favorite story or question takes home that sweet loot.
1.
One came from Ello here. I love the idea of Halloween one-shots. It seems nice to make a pause, to make a pause in the epic adventure and do something more terror-oriented for the occasion. Darker lighting, unsettling music, fake cobwebs and such seems like fun. But what recommendations would you give to those of us who play online? How can we set the mood?
Honestly, I'm not very good at that.
Oh,
Because
I have an idea.
I, first of all, don't really understand how to use music bots on Discord.
Oh, well, hello. You're already giving away the right answer. Music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because they didn't even say that, did they? They just said...
Don't be like...
Oh, no, they did say unsettling music.
Don't be like me. Be able to use music bots on Discord.
Yeah, honestly, music bots on Discord got really hard ever since they cracked down on all the linking to YouTube stuff. I like Owlbear Rodeo because that still lets you share audio from YouTube.
I guess I should try that, maybe.
Eventually, they'll probably shut that down too.
Yeah.
And then we'll just need to get a Spotify account like everybody else. But
I mostly use Roll20 anyway.
Well, right, but you can link music through Spotify to Discord using some bots, and that's all still legit as far as I know. And that's the thing. Definitely find a good playlist, but you probably want it to be, mixed in with maybe more ambient sounds than you usually would. Really get those dripping dungeon sounds in there. Really get some eerie wails and howls that don't have to be explained.
Yeah, just make it wet.
Yeah, make it wet as the moon. I don't know if anyone's going to get our inside jokes, but...
Well, the moon is wet. Everybody knows that.
Moon is wet. Speaking of inside jokes, it's reminding me that you didn't even start this first episode with a spicy water.
I don't have spicy water. I have decaf coffee, courtesy of Mini World's Tavern.
Not a sponsor for this, but yeah.
That's where we got it,
That's
though.
where we got it, and it's good stuff. How else do you set the mood? Well, like we said.
Just tell everybody
with your
to turn their
descriptions,
lights down.
You can literally be like, everyone sit in the dark. I like that, actually. You could really try to find maps that don't reveal a lot of light, really use your fog of war stuff. If you're using a VTT with dynamic lighting or whatever it's called, use it. Like, really rely on... Think of that, it's like Slenderman crap with the flashlight.
Oh, yeah.
You have this, like, narrow
Found
beam of light that you
footage.
can see.
Yeah.
Like, you're really trying to emulate that sort of thing. Because you know what? It is really hard to do it on a VTT. But I guess my other suggestion then is don't rely so much on the tabletop and really just think about how you're speaking. Really prepare those descriptions. And because this is a one-shot, because you're railroading them, you have time to prepare those things. Because you know what they're going to run into. Because you're forcing them into these situations for the most part. You're cutting them off. You are isolating them. They are trapped in your one map that you made with your set of descriptions that you prepared. Mm-hmm. So just spend a little more time on prep and you'll nail it. Let's get another one.
6.
That's a powerful roll. From Jake Adams. I feel like it would be fun to do a werewolf/lycanthropy one-shot, but I haven't found something I wanted to implement. Have you run that in a game or have any advice for homebrewing something?
I have some advice when it comes to lycanthropy and werewolves.
Do it.
Don't make them immune to everything except silver attacks unless you are making it a thing to give everybody silvered weapons.
Yeah, just resistance. Resistance to everything else.
Just watch out for that.
Or even like resistance to everything, but then they're vulnerable if the weapon is silvered or something. Yeah, the way that most lycanthropes are handled in 5e doesn't fit, and maybe previous editions, I really don't remember, really doesn't fit, at least how I think of it, like with the lore that we all know and love.
Yeah, and you should always try to cast doubt on someone who is not a werewolf.
Yes, totally.
But don't make it so painfully obvious that the party's just going to be like, this is obviously, this is a red herring.
Yeah.
Because if it's too obvious, they're going to notice that.
Yeah, another thought that's coming to mind here, like we've played a game that Grace does not like called One Night Ultimate Werewolf or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody is, like all the players are just forced to lie to each other. It's not not D&D, not exactly an RPG, or I guess kind of an RPG, but not a dice
It's
game.
a card game.
Yeah, and everybody
Card
has an
game.
individual role, and everybody like could be the werewolf. Like whether or not you are, but you really don't know about anybody else, or except for maybe one or two other people, because you gain some information, but it's very vague. Like you really just have to rely on your intuition.
Yeah,
and
I don't like playing
that's good.
games where you have to lie to
yeah,
win.
where you have to like deceive.
I don't like to lie to
table.
people, and I don't like
Right.
being lied to.
But hey, for a one shot, maybe you can work it in your session. But this brings up a good point. I'm really glad that you said that, because it's something I thought of in the first half and then forgot. If you're doing horror, you really gotta ask beforehand, hey, all of my players who will be in this session, are there any horror aspects or just things that you really don't want to experience in this game? Because, you gotta be thoughtful about everybody's lines. So,
yeah.
do that. And don't lie to Grace. Okay, roll again.
2.
The real William White. I've been wanting to run a silent library type one-shot for a while now. How would you run a possession mechanic? Yeah, I don't know what silent library is, but possession mechanic, so that the player remains in control of their character and the other players don't know. My idea is charisma/wisdom save over private messages. Yeah. Closest thing I can recommend off the top of my head would be you kind of just tell the player, okay, like these are some guidelines to role play by now.
I would actually set it up ahead of time with one player.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
To
going to be the
be
easiest way.
Possessed. Yep.
And honestly, probably something that your other players would not expect. Like when one player is straight up in cahoots with the dungeon master,
They
that's
don't
good
have
stuff.
to be in cahoots, but you as the DM give this player a cue of some kind. Like it just in one of the words that you're going to say, one of your flavor texts.
Sure.
And that is when they have become possessed and they must start behaving as such.
Right. I mean, and so that's the idea, right? Because they're then still in control of their character, but the other players don't necessarily know. So yeah, if you're playing online, yeah, like they suggested here, save in a private message would work. But I really like your idea there too.
Yeah, and you can still like
Sneaky.
determine randomly which character it's going to be, but then still tell them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's roll again.
I was looking up what silent library is, but
Yeah, whatever.
oh my god, keep rolling 6 and 2, which we've
Whoa.
already done. These must be so unbalanced. 4.
4 from
Omicromium.
Omicromium. So I'm part of a club at my university called the Sci-Fi Fantasy Society, and last year for Halloween there was a one-shot that I took part in. Because it was Halloween themed, the DM had a bunch of those plastic Halloween spiders and was using them as encounters here and there. Somebody walked past and knocked over this box of spiders onto the game board. There were like 50 spiders on the board, and the DM decided that it was a surprise encounter. The spiders were super weak and attacked in groups so the encounter wouldn't drag on too long. It was really a testament to the creativity of DMs and how they have to just go with the flow sometimes. It was such a fun night. I love that. I like the improv.
It does kind of remind me of that one like really bad Adventurers League experience we had where the DM
Used like candy or something?
well, it was when we like the ranger druid or whatever like rolled high enough to avoid all the encounters. Then the DM was like, nah, you're just going to encounter them anyway, all at once. And it was like 30 skeletons.
Yeah.
I don't really like hordes of enemies personally. I feel like it's a slog. But if you had fun, that's what matters.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, there were a number of things wrong with that session, first of all, that we played. But I, for one, am into, because I think, what did they say here? The spiders were, did they say they're really weak?
Yeah, they're weak and they attacked in groups.
Yeah. So it's really like, okay, this one thing represents like a handful, and then it probably has like a couple hit points. So that way you're like, sweeping through groups of spiders, and it can make for this really cinematic moment. And I just think that's like a really fun, unplanned thing that the DM did to create a cool, memorable moment for the group. So I'm into that. Obviously, it's not a thing you can like plan ahead of time necessarily, unless, I don't know, maybe there's some random element. I know there is a horror, I think it's a horror RPG that uses a Jenga tower, and you're kind of like pulling stuff out along the way. And then I don't remember what the cue is that makes somebody have to pull something, but then when it falls, it's like a shit hits the fan kind of moment. and so everybody's, literally on the edge of their seats and like being careful about the tower. And if it were to fall for any other reason, yeah, having that random element, you don't know when this bad thing could happen, but you just know it's gonna.
Maybe we should use a Jenga tower for this podcast.
We could. We already have dice as one random thing. Yeah, hey, we'll find a way. Or we won't. Who cares? Roll.
3.
From Colin V. My friend and I were at a Halloween costume party a few years ago, but I got bored and started a little one-on-one one-shot in the corner to pass the time. A few people walked over in costume and asked what we were doing, so we invited them to join. They'd never played before, and one of them said, "Well, we don't have characters or anything." I pointed at their costumes and smiled. Yes, you do. And that was how a Tabaxi vampire and a Green Lantern-inspired warlock joined our little game. I still play with these people on a regular basis, and I still remember that day fondly. So I guess the question would be, how would you quickly describe the concept of Dungeons & Dragons or TTRPGs in general to someone who's never heard of it before? Thanks for the great content and advice, guys. Loving the channel so far. Cool.
First of all, what a cute moment.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And that's really cool that it's their current group still.
A nice meet cute for a group. I love that. Second, this is actually something I have to do a lot because if anybody ever asks what Bob does,
right.
I have to explain.
Yeah, and people ask Grace because, I now work at home, so I don't experience the world.
I'm around a lot of people every day, and I have to talk to them. Blah.
Yeah.
So I usually say it's a creative storytelling experience that uses board game-like elements.
Wow.
And takes place in your imagination. Some variation of those 3 things.
Yeah. Just
to explain that it is a game that is not a board game exactly, nor is it a video game. Because a lot of people just think it's a video game.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more like that. But yeah. Hey, that's a pretty good description. You're so good at descriptions.
Yeah. Also, anytime I'm like telling a story about a session or whatever at work to my coworkers, I do have to really take out all the like actual
jargon or
I have to take out all the jargon. So I figured out a way of D&D speak to normies.
Well, it's cool that they're interested enough to ask you about it, and or I don't know, or listen to your stories. And
yeah, some of them are.
Yeah.
Others are just like, I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah, and hey, maybe that's a good point.
Dumbing it down as much as I possibly can.
It's never gonna work for everybody. Like there are totally folks out there who will just, you say like storytelling game, and they're immediately just like, I only read nonfiction books. So, yeah, those people exist too.
I've never read a story in my life.
Yeah. Okay.
Imagination is for children.
Yeah. Won't never grow up. Okay. Last one, so we don't have to roll, from JC. One-shots. How do you plan to make a one-shot that will only last a night? Most of the one-shots I have run have been multiple sessions. What do you have to pare down to make a true one-night stand, if you will, for one-shots? Thank you both.
Well, first, you have to be okay with making sacrifices.
Yeah, and extremely important question here.
To cut things out. You can't put anything behind what I will call like a paywall. You can't put important clues.
Just call it a D20 test.
Okay, whatever. You can't put important clues behind investigation or persuasion or intimidation checks.
You can't have a random element for a thing that you need to occur on your railroad.
Those things must be accessible.
Right.
And the way that I usually do something like that is like, if they say specifically, I'm investigating this corner over here, or I'm checking the floor for hidden compartments, then they just find it. Because they're doing the thing they need to do, and they specified that. We mentioned earlier, like, don't have your players have like these huge backstories.
Yeah.
You kind of want...
Ooh, and on that note,
you
though...
kind of want one-dimensional characters
yeah,
here.
and I was going to say, pre-generated characters are actually great for one-shots in general, because if the players are not familiar with the game, and you're just like, hey, well, let's do this one, fun thing for Halloween, whatever, you need them to just be able to jump right in. So you can't spend any time on character creation. Ultimately, it's going to depend on how much time you have, but definitely... be making mental notes along the way. Like, assume any combat is going to take minimum 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You want to do it in less than that. Try to be cinematic about things. Don't go into minutia. Don't check a lot of rules. Go a little loosey-goosey for your one-shot. That's what I would do. And that's what I have done.
I also highly recommend, I don't know how helpful this actually is, because it really depends on how much time you have in your life for this. But if you know your group well, I recommend writing your own one-shots, because know where they pay too much attention, where they don't pay enough attention, where they're going to linger. You should know your group well enough to write a one-shot, a true one-shot. I personally generally have success with this.
Yeah. I
think only one time I've run a one-shot, it went into 2 sessions. And it was because... I didn't write it myself.
I mean, even then, I think it's still... You can, I don't know, after you've DM'd enough times, whether it's your own modules or pre-written modules, whatever, you can get a sense of parts that what your players will like, what they won't, what you can cut, what you can add. So definitely reading the module beforehand, like really studying it well, will help. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't discount modules entirely because... there's a lot of one-shots on my Patreon.
Yeah. Well, your one-shots are very short that I feel like
true.
It's difficult to have.
They're all
them
like under 10 pages because that's how I think adventures should be.
Yeah.
I write the adventures I want to see in the world.
And if it's a dungeon, you have 3 too many rooms. I'm telling you. Take 3 of them off.
Yeah, that's true. Like, it's okay to have... will say this. It's okay to have stuff that is not going to impact the story as long as it will also be unsettling, I guess. It's like as long as it'll add to the tone, but you don't want to overdo that stuff. And you definitely...
if your party is the kind who picks up on every little thing and assumes it's a clue.
Right. So yeah, you got to be careful with that. But that's a knowing your players kind of thing. And what was the other thing I was going to say? One thing that like sometimes sometimes one shots will do is start you off with, rather than a combat, some kind of like mini game sort of scenario.
Ugh, I hate it.
Yeah, Grace is barfing right now.
Do not do that.
Because it's just a huge time waster.
No
like
festivals.
Almost any time I've ever... It can be a festival. A lot of your one-shots are going to be festivals. That's like 99% of one-shots, except the ones on my Patreon, are festivals.
Are too open unless you are starting with something ruining the festival right off the bat.
Right. But yeah, don't do mini games.
No
anyway,
mini games.
And for sharing our favorite story / question. This episode's loot winner is JC, the one who just asked that question about paring down the one-shots, because I really think that was like the most important thing, and I'm so glad somebody brought that up so we would make sure it's in this episode.
Yes, very important question.
Yeah, keeping it to one session can be so crucial. You don't want to have it spill over. Like, it's really frequent that they spill over into 2, but...
One last thing about that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to just have the boss drop through the ceiling and be like, "Ha-ha, 'twas I!" And then just have the fight if you're getting too close to the end of the night.
Yeah. You just really got to play it by ear. But like that question implied, don't be afraid to cut stuff out. Okay. So JC, you're going home with the D&D Starter Set, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. Woo!
Air horn sound. Yay.
Okay, and if you enjoy this episode, please share it with a friend and...
thwack that like button.
Thwack that like button. And to be eligible for loot and support this show, consider subscribing or joining Patreon through the links below. Patrons also get a private RSS link to listen through your favorite podcast platform and a bunch of 5e one-shot adventures. Thank you for your support, and keep building.
Stop building.